what's going on, everybody? So I was actually just listening to a podcast by, what's it called, the Inner City Press, and this podcast something pretty interesting. And I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not sure what to make of it. What I took from it is that the George Floyd trial could possibly impact R. Kelly's trial, and that's what I took away from it, right? I'm not saying that that's actually the case. I'm not saying that I'm right. So, I mean, you guys probably should listen to this and you guys let me know what you think is going on. But apparently, I think, the gentleman from Inner City Press appears to believe that the George Floyd trial could impact R. Kelly's trial, or at least he suspects that there may be something there, right? And then it also seems like, Greenberg may try to make an argument, or he may somehow try to tie the two together. I'm not sure. I'm speculating. Again, this is something I want you guys to hear, and I want you guys to let me know what you think. But I think number one, the George Floyd trial and the results were pretty groundbreaking, and I just thought that um, when I heard this stuff, I was like, wow. I mean, is he going to find some way to tie all this stuff together and to maybe come up with a new defense for R. Kelly? And if I speculate, and this is 100% pure speculation, and nothing that I'm about to say is based on any fact, and nothing that I'm about to say is based on any logical type of thinking or deduction or anything like that. I'm just 100% speculating. I listened to the actual the podcast from the Inner City Press, and I'm just trying to connect the dots, but I'm not sure that I'm connecting the dots. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that the dots aren't connecting the way that I'm going to connect them. But I just want to be 100% sure, and I want you guys to let me know, right? So what I believe is happening is that Greenberg is probably going to try to make some type of argument that is going to say that the government is just simply overcharging. Now, I have always believed the government has overcharged, especially with this RICO statute thing. I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't see R. Kelly being some type of crime boss. I think that he's like any other musician, any other male musician, rather, right? You're making lots of money and you're incredibly busy, so you don't have time to date. So, since he probably has employees, he's probably asked his employees to handle some of the arrangements between him and his dates or whatever. And I think he was having sex with his groupies. I don't think that's a crime. That's just people who love R. Kelly, people who love his brand, wanting to essentially sleep with him. And that's it. And that's all it is. Everyone has a right, a basic constitutional right to have sex. And I don't see a RICO here, right? I just don't see a RICO here. So I think that Greenberg is going to somehow use the George Floyd results to say that the authorities or the prosecutors in this case were racially motivated, or they were somehow racially biased to bring charges like this against R. Kelly. That's my logic. And again, I have no way of connecting those dots. That's just something that that's the only thing I can think of because of this exchange of words. It's a kind of weird exchange of words. It's a very bizarre change of words. But without further ado, I'm just going to let you guys listen to the podcast, and you guys just let me know what you think after the podcast.
Okay, this is Inner City Press's podcast for today, April 15th, 2021. Here in the Southern District of New York Courthouse, we're covering more than 10 cases. This one is about the EDNY in Brooklyn and also about Chicago. We've just covered a very short but interesting, I think, proceeding involving R. Kelly. He faces trial here in New York on the following charges: racketeering, sexual exploitation of a child, bribery, kidnapping, forced labor, and Mann Act coercion and enticement. The trial is set for August 9th, I believe. And today, the main question of EDNY Judge Donnelly, Ann M. Donnelly, was whether that's a solid date. And the defense mostly, it turns out there's a trial out there that's being postponed. So the defense's main concern was whether the COVID restrictions will make the trial more difficult if they have to wear headsets. Judge Donnelly said trials are back on at EDNY, as they are here in the Southern District. She hasn't held one yet, but by then she probably will have. So August 9th it is. Now, this is the part that was interesting. All of that is just scheduling in a sense. There's a jury questionnaire that's supposed to go out July 26th through August 6th, I guess, and then they'll do the voir dire, asking them questions. But this written questionnaire, Rkelly's defense lawyer, Mr. Greenberg, asked to see a draft of it because, and here it is, wait for it, because he said many things have happened in the country since the first draft of this jury questionnaire. And the judge laughed. Judge Donnelly went, oh, yes, a lot has happened. Sure, I can share a draft. Now, the question is, will the draft be changed to address not only George Floyd and more recent developments in and around Minneapolis, but the insurrection blues, January 6th in the Capitol? How will the jury questionnaire change, and what might it imply for the trial of Mr. Rkelly? Well, we'll have to see, and Inner City Press will cover it.
So there you have it. You just heard the gentleman from the Inner City Press, and forgive me, I think I butchered the name of his organization or his website earlier. I called it Inner City something or another, but it's actually Inner City Press. And you can just go to his website. I think it's called innercitypress.com or .org or something like that. But you just heard him, right? You know, he talked about the conversation that was had in court where they brought up George Floyd, and it was related to the voir dire questionnaire, right? So just to keep you guys on point, there is a section of the jury selection called voir dire, and we're not going to explain all of that right now, right here. For the most part, I've already gone over what a voir dire is for those that don't know. If you've never seen a legal TV show where they do the voir dire, or if you've never even heard of voir dire, for your convenience, look above. There should be a link where I talk about the voir dire and the jury selection process as a whole, right? So he talks about a conversation between uh, lawyer Greenberg and Donnelly in court where they're talking about the questionnaire, and then Greenberg, as you heard, brings up that there's been a lot that has changed since the George Floyd verdict and the insurrections, so on and so forth. So I'm curious as to why that would matter, right? And the way my mind works is that my gears just start turning in my head trying to relate George Floyd to R. Kelly. And if you guys come to my channel, you already know that I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, right? And so my mind comes up with all types of crazy things, and I'm not even going to, say some of the things I've actually been thinking. But the most basic thing in my mind is that he's going to somehow try to say that the prosecutors overcharged, and he's going to somehow introduce racism into all of this. And I can see the racism element in this case. And the reason I say that is because you have this situation where you have African American men doing the same thing, doing the same exact thing as Caucasian men are doing. For example, Hugh Hefner had tons of wild parties. He even lived with 3 or 4 girls, just like R. Kelly. You can pretty much make a comparison between Hugh Hefner and R. Kelly. Yet Hugh Hefner goes to jail. I'm sorry. Yet R. Kelly goes to jail, and Hugh Hefner lives a long and happy life. And Hugh Hefner has actually had relationships with multiple women and lived with multiple women for years, and no one has ever touched him, right? But the instant a black man does something similar, he goes to jail. So I can definitely see the racism element there. And then you also have what's the one famous comedian name? Woody Harrison, I think. Not Woody Harrison. I'm sorry, Woody Allen or something. I remember that guy's name. But the one guy who essentially married his daughter. He was married, and then they adopted a young lady, and they raised the girl up. And then when she was raised, somewhere along the lines, he divorces his wife, and then he marries his daughter. That's a really crazy, bizarre story, and one would wonder what was going on in that household while the young lady was, underage, right? I'm not saying that anything happened while she was underage, but it's just the fact that you have cases like this and nothing happens to people who are Caucasian and of other nationalities, but when you have similar situations with an African American male, a celebrity, he goes straight to jail, right? So uh, I think that Greenberg is probably going to introduce some of the obvious elements of racism into all this, and I think he's going to use George Floyd to kind of like use that as a bridge. You guys, let me know what you think. Am I off? Am I crazy? Am I, just too wacky to think something like that is actually going to happen? Leave your questions and comments below and you let me know, right? So again, I have a bunch of videos on my channel which talks about the voir dire, how the jury is selected, and I also have some tailor-made videos for Rkelly where I talk about his jury situation, right? Because as you guys know, he has an anonymous jury, right? An anonymous and sequestered jury, right? And I talk about how that really doesn't matter in my personal opinion. Now, of course, I'm not a lawyer, so a lawyer can come in and tell me that I'm, horribly wrong. And if you're a lawyer, you listen to this, you can leave your comments below to educate the general public. But the reason I say it didn't matter is because the prosecutors are going to be dealt the same hand that R. Kelly is going to be dealt. And the only thing that I actually believes matter, the only thing that I actually believe would matter is the social media accounts of the actual jurors. But honestly, I think that would be more effective after the trial or more useful after the trial as instead of being useful before the trial. Let me say that again because I think I jumbled it up. I think the social media accounts of the jurors is going to matter after the fact versus before the fact. And the reason I say that is because there's quite a bit of data that uh, people are going to have on their social media accounts. You probably, for example, could just go to your own Twitter account. And if you've had that Twitter account for at least 2 or 3 years, try to go through all 3 years or 2 years of your Twitter account and see what you've said. It's a tough task just for one person. But when you take that and you multiply it by 12, you're going to see there's going to be quite a bit of work to go through, right? So obviously, what they're going to be looking for in those Twitter accounts is obvious. Um, what was the word I'm looking for? They're going to be looking for obvious evidence of bias. They're going to be looking for obvious evidence where people were adamant about trying to convict R. Kelly. Things of that nature is what they're going to be looking for. And I don't think that you would have enough time to go through all that before the trial. This is something that you would have time to go through after the trial. And you may even have to hire somebody to help with that. But again, I've made a video on this. If you click on the link above, you can check that link out. So you guys let me know. First, let me know what you think about George Floyd and R. Kelly. Do you think that Greenberg is actually going to try to tie the two together? I'm sorry, let me say that again. Do you think that Greenberg is going to try and tie the two together, George Floyd and Greenberg? Or do you think I'm just nuts, right? And then let me know what you guys think about the voir dire and the anonymous and sequestered jury. Do you think it really matters? If so, questions and comments below. That's it for this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.